Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. I'm smiling a little bit because I feel a little devilish when I come in this late at night, and yet I built up a routine, and it's easy for me because I know it's kind of like holding myself accountable by ending my evening by doing my podcast. Understanding for the most part, people be picking it up in the morning in the next day and they're starting their day. Sometimes with a little bit of heavy content, and this is what I'm starting to understand a little bit, because I always want my shows, my lives, my whatever I'm representing to feel light and to feel digestible, right? Feel relatable. Wouldn't that be? I'm not going to be, say, hopeful, but I'm optimistic that as we, move along, and I'm not just saying, in my live shows, but in life in general, as we move along, we get to learn things. We get to expand on new creations and new inventions. And I'm pretty excited to be a part of that. I am an accidental tourist in all honesty. And hello, you guys. If you've never met me before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And I am kind of curious is the truth, because a lot of different ideas are coming at me in suggestions, and I recognize they're not necessarily ideas. They are truths, and I'm not saying truths that are not my truths. They're just truths that I did not know were out there. And when I say that, what we digest, right? What we bring into our systems and into our lives, it creates movement or lack of. And, it takes a little bit of curiosity. It takes a little bit of bravery and courage, right? I had no idea what I was doing when I first started on YouTube. And that's the truth. Okay, let's just backtrack a little bit, right? Wanted to talk about innovation. I just came out of watching a documentary, and it was something, I don't know, maybe you're too young that you don't remember when this happened, when the Challenger, right, blew up, and it was a rocket that was being sent out to space. And it was something that I don't know if I was curious and I wanted to understand it, or if it was something that was presented in school, and as like when they tell everybody to meet in the gymnasium, they're going to watch something like it could have been something like that. I don't remember. If you ask me to take a wild guess, I would probably say my dad woke us up at 2 o'clock in the morning in preparation for it to happen. My dad loved space. Dad loved technology and those things that we don't understand. And he loved to be a part of that. And other than his interest and his passion and being that little bit of a space groupie, that, you know, he had become a little bit of an expert in his own right in that. And that was his passion, that was his curiosity. And, you know, that innovation, it never grabbed me, never ever grabbed me. And this is where I don't know if it was a quote that I came across today. I do believe it was just probably something that I thought. But the thing about AI learning, right? It's not necessarily about being able to move forward. It's about being willing to move forward. When I started on YouTube, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. I had this dream of being like Logan Paul or exploring with Josh or right. I was going to be a famous YouTuber. I just knew it. And some things in my life when I know it, I know it. And I remember driving my sisters crazy. This is my year. This is my year. And after a few years, oh my goodness, everything about my life was crashing around me. And the only thing that was important to me in that moment was, right, moving along with my brand. I have no idea, why it was so important for me. But I never lost faith. I always believed that I belonged on YouTube. And for all the things that was so difficult, it offered up something that was very, very important. It was the recognition that, nobody was going to take this away from me, right? That despite my talent, despite my lack of understanding or waking up to any of these ideas well into my 50s, that I was going to dredge water, that I was going to give it everything I had, right? And I really felt that I was up to the challenge. But again, my YouTube channel, it was so important for me, but it was hard, right? I wasn't a technical person. I didn't get pulled into life that way, right? I wasn't fighting it tooth and nail, but because of my YouTube channel, I knew I had to I had to do what I had to do. I had to learn and I had to somehow meet technology. I had to somehow show YouTube and show Google and prove to whoever or whatever is moving us forward that I really wanted to go for that ride. And even if I wasn't technically inclined, I was willing to be pulled into it. And if life had to be on repeat and then on repeat and then on repeat, I was willing to do that. I was willing. And it was in that willingness that I learned things, that I actually did get pulled into innovation and learn about filming and learning about mindset, learning about my place in the world or the expectations of my place in the world and the place that I want to be. And then actually to realize that I could be the creator of that if I wanted to. And in that, I just started pivoting. I didn't worry about what I didn't know. And I just moved with whatever was in that moment. And, my YouTube channel, okay, it's been 10 years. And you might look at my channel, right? Okay, it's not a Logan Paul viral. It isn't. But that's okay because what I put out to the world is I don't believe for everybody, but it's for some. And my mother was a big believer in secondhand, right? That there was a one use, a second use, and possibly a third use, right? Because I would get my whole clothes secondhand, and after I'd overgrown those clothes, right, they would get passed down to my sisters and possibly even passed down to that. So there was always at least three second hands, third hands, right, to find a use for everything. And yeah, it's incredible how in my own understandings that I get to make some choices in that. And it's in those small choices in meeting in the middle, right? We're not just saying put your dreams out there, set your goals, and it's all going to come at you because all you have is what you are in the moment. And if you're sitting in your house, right, you better be active in the world somehow, whether you're on the phone, on the phone, right, or online. Maybe you have a podcast. Maybe you're not the star, but what you create is the star. I have friends out there who actually do that just share their art and build an amazing community around that, right? I wrote a few notes down. I thought because it came across me, I says, "Oh, innovation." Right, because I would not be here right now if I hadn't allowed myself to be pulled into that. Because part of my fears is that I'm not good enough, right? That I'm not qualified enough. But in my own adapt and conquer, right? And my own refusal to give up and to just allow myself to be pulled into it, to recognize if I just move in that, I learn things. And yeah, it might be in repeat. It might take me another 10 years. But in that second use and in that third use and in understanding this is YouTube, this is Google, and I am confident and I believe that this will be here. And right, that maybe some of those perspectives that I've not necessarily gone out to search on, but understanding that I've allowed myself to be pulled into it. And so I at least, out of my own curiosity, play with it a little bit to see if it fits me, right? To see if it fits into my life. And if there's a second or third use out there, that I might share it so that, somebody else might benefit out of something that, right, might not get a lot of views. But there's a reason for that. And I believe there's a reason for that. And that moment will come. And it might not even be in this lifetime for myself, but I understand that that opportunity, no matter when that content is picked up, when that idea, when that thought, that experience, right, is picked up, that it might be recognized and it might be of use to somebody like it was of use to me. You don't necessarily have to know. You don't have to, right? You don't have to grind yourself to the bone. You don't have to. I don't even type, you guys. I can't believe I just said that. But it's true. I took typing in high school. I was terrible at it. I think it was something naturally that I would never have ever, because it wasn't like I didn't try. It wasn't like I didn't want to try. I had these dreams even back then that I would love to write a book. but, I certainly recognized pretty quick that if that was going to happen, I would be writing it. It would be a whole lot faster, right? Just something about the keyboard. I know where the letters are on the keyboard, but holding my hands that way and stretching, oh, I would have had arthritis for sure. I would have had arthritis for sure because my sister, she was a speed. Like she could have taught class. She was so fast. She just blew me away. And she admitted to me actually when she surprised me so much with her speed that yes, she was pretty exceptional. And she was also very grammarly in that. And when I say grammarly in that, very specific, like she was very good with the spelling. But if she could write, chicken scratch. You couldn't read anything. And I'm talking about my sister, chicken scratch. You couldn't read anything that she wrote down. And then it was the opposite for me, right? I think my handwriting is pretty good as long as I'm not just in my scribble notes. I do have decent handwriting. I've been complimented on my handwriting my entire life. But, well, Grammarly helps me in learning to spell properly, so I'm getting better at it, right? I wish I had that talent in high school. But it's not that I studied the word corrections that Grammarly was doing for me or word correct or whatever platform was actually helping me in whatever I was writing or trying to get across, right? But it was important for me to be able to do it anyway and to be willing to do it and just being willing, and thank goodness for the cursor. Thank goodness for the cursor that and thank goodness that that breathing of I need that project tonight. I need that project yesterday. I need that book by the end of the week. I need that program. I need that insight. I need that article. Right? I tap like this. But I'm learning, like I said, I'm learning how to be a better speller. I'm even faster with my one finger typing. I am much faster in that. And I'm relaxed in it. I'm not stressed in it. Now, where the stress came in that because of my experience in if this is marketing or if this is uh, thought leadership, if this is vlogging, or you know this is the gift that I bring in. And I never thought that I could possibly do it because I was lacking in those skills, and it blew up in my face every time because of my experience in YouTube and experience in I wanted to be a brand manager. I wanted to help other YouTubers, right? But I pivoted. I haven't even thought about helping YouTubers for the longest time because I've been so delving into my own. And it's not delving in because I have to, like there's a whip. This is something I absolutely enjoy. And not only do I enjoy, I'm desperate for that too because these are questions I've asked myself all my life. And allowing myself to be pulled in to some of these ideas that I didn't even know existed, these truths that were not even a thought in my mind, were a dot in my reality, but somehow they came across my path and I have to absorb them if they are truths, right? They become part of my perception in my life. And once these become perceptions, then I get to understand things a little bit better, right? My dad would have never thought this of me, not in a million years, right? My dad loved me. I loved my dad, but my dad did not have much faith that, right, that maybe I'd wake up to any ideas, let alone these ones, right? Maybe there's something in that makes it so that, I'm not wanting to prove my dad wrong. I don't want people to see what they did to me, right? That I achieved it despite anyway. I just want to do it because it's helping, right? And I don't want my sisters, my nieces, my nephews, and going down that line to have to deal with a lot of that stuff that didn't need to be dealt with, right? Didn't need to be experienced, but it was experienced anyway just because of our not understanding. Now we understand things a little bit better. Maybe we'll be able to move a little bit better in that. But none of that would have happened, right? Without innovation, right? Without the microphone, without the computer, without the cameras and the lessons that allowed me to actually recognize that there were other truths, right? And that some of the truths that I had been living with might have only been, let's just call it a misunderstanding, right? And on whose part of these misunderstandings, right? That's in our evolution, right? These are the words that we never wrote down, or we didn't have the ability to express and learn to write and stuff. That these were just story we passed down from generations to generations until they became truths. When in all actuality, they were just an explanation or a perspective, because a perspective is the learning process in the process of having a perception. And so maybe out of wishful thinking, right? Maybe out of wanting power, maybe out of misunderstanding or fear. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. Right? And as the answers come across our paths, we just need to be willing to move with that, right? Just like Cindy, who's a YouTuber, and she can't even type. I didn't even, if you go back to my very first videos, you wouldn't have seen me in front of the camera for almost a year. But as I took in the lessons, and you build up the experience and a little bit of courage. And sometimes it is that despite and that frustration, and I'll show you. And right. And then once you do it, you've done it, and you realize, oh, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe I can do that again. Maybe I do have something to say. Maybe this is a good lesson that even if it doesn't work for me, that it might be beneficial for somebody else. Right? And you think about these things, not in a compulsory kind of way, but in that moment that it crosses your path, because you never know if that's the thought for the next great invention, the next great understanding, that big new pivot that we're all digging our heels in. Right? Yeah. Okay, you guys. I hope that made some sense. I'm gonna come back uh after my live and see if there was something in there for me. I saw you, Eugene. Message me, Eugene, if you want me to go live with you. Right? I'll find you online. You guys, that's my good cheer. I'll be back tomorrow. Everybody have a good sleepy. If you're just getting up, have an amazing day. Right? Every little inch helps, but it's not about beating yourself up. It's not about 100 miles an hour. It's about the actual progress that we allow to happen naturally. Right? Right? Yeah. I just had that idea of, again, I use this analogy all the time that over COVID, how we all got shut down. And there were a lot of grandmas and grandpas out there who had kids across the country and grandkids across the country. And they weren't able to, right, have an experience. And they were missing out on those grandkids, maybe first years or those important moments in their children's lives. And also those children worrying, because it was a scary time. The world was shut down for a long time in that. And adults, people who had never touched technology, who really didn't understand AI learning or how easy it might be. That maybe just out of a curiosity of maybe just fixing a simple problem that might have led it into another problem. It probably did. But that little bit of pride to go, oh my goodness, I got it working. Oh my goodness, I'm live, you guys. Right? It gets you in a place where you think that maybe, right, maybe I can do this, right, maybe it's not so hard, maybe it's just not for them, right, maybe that'll be good for me, right. And if you think about it, it's realized. Okay, you guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.